So we'll go ahead and get started. It's 9 o'clock. For those of you that don't know me, there's a couple people on the call I haven't talked to before. My name is Tyler Sheff. I'm the host of the Cash Flow Guys podcast. That is a real estate podcast and that focuses on teaching people the things that the gurus don't teach. And of course, I don't have the $50,000 price tag to go along with it either. Actionable advice, things that make sense. Most recent episode, the week before last, before this morning, was talking about negotiations, where you guys heard me on a call with the seller. I was hoping to do a second one for this week. The problem is every time I do that and I record the call, if I'm going to reuse it outside of my own needs, I got to get the seller's buy-in. Now, the first guy, he didn't care. He had no problem. And that's because he did, as you probably heard from the call, he liked to talk. So, he quickly's like, I don't care, whatever. And off we go. The other guy, the other couple people I talked to, which kind of sucks because they were great calls. They didn't want them to be recorded, which I understand. So I'm going to do more of those. I just it's a numbers game. I called probably 10 people in the last week. And out of the 10 people, only one of them let me record them. So I'm trying to find a better, I got to work on my pitch with that. So it's constant practice. But
what does your pitch sound like?
What's that?
I said, what does your pitch sound like? Like, what's your approach?
I took 100 different stabs at it. Calling saying, hey, my name's Tyler Sheff. I'm calling about the property. Just letting you know for quality assurance, this call is being recorded. And they're like, I don't want it recorded. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. I tried several different strategies like that. And I was calling some pretty tore up properties and some pretty rough areas. Maybe that has something to do with it. I don't know. But I wasn't on my game. Good sales practice, though, let me tell you. I got a lot of no's. Yeah, no's are good because no's help you get to the yes. You get the no out of the way early. That's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
So I don't let that intimidate me. Doesn't feel good sometimes. You get like 80 of them in one day, but it is what it is. But that's that. So this week's episode, we just launched this morning at 6 a.m., goes more into negotiations. I did a little bit of review of last week, and then I added some more information to it, some more tips for you guys. Take a listen to that. Hope you find some value in it. I want to reiterate the fact that if you cannot negotiate effectively, you will fail in real estate. Guarantee it. You'll absolutely fail unless you have enough money to hire someone to negotiate for you. If that's the case, don't worry about it. You have to learn how to negotiate. You can pay somebody else to do it. But these are skills that don't take, and I say this in the podcast, but I'm going to say it again, you don't have to arm wrestle. It's not a battle. It's not a fight. It doesn't have to be. The only reason it's uncomfortable is because you let it be. And if you understand that the other person is as uncomfortable as you are, or more so, then great. This is the one reason why everybody makes fun of real estate agents, but real estate agents aren't taught negotiation in real estate school. The only thing real estate agents learn in school is how not to go to real estate jail. They teach them how to cover their own butt. That's it. They teach them how to look out for, how to know the regulations and work within them. That's what they teach. That is real estate school. That's all it is. Or at least I didn't get anything more out of it than that. They gloss over how to do a market analysis, but they give very generic, very basic information. I think the market analysis section is about 5 pages in the book, and that's about it. So if you looked at the FHA appraisal guidelines, what they use, what appraisers have to go by, and you actually printed that bad boy off, because I've actually read that thing cover to cover. God, don't do that. It'll make your brain boil. It's like this thick if you print it out. Where the MLS or the realtor course is like that thick. 60 hours of training. So don't be surprised that agents suck. That's okay. Agents think you suck too. So it's, everybody's on the same page. So just get used to it. And then those of us that are agents and investors, man, we're self-loathing. God almighty. Sometimes I'm a bottom feeder realtor and sometimes I'm a bottom feeder investor. It depends. Yesterday, I made an offer on a property that I couldn't afford to buy. How about that? I wrote the offer anyway. $3 million. Guess what? I am a little short of $3 million by a lot of $1 million. but I wrote the offer anyway. Did it get accepted? Well, I don't really know. We'll see. So Lucius, you know Bill Cook. That's right. Lucius, if you're said you being an actor, you should probably go to his he does a little meetup every once in a while where he up there in Atlanta where he will take people out and do the door knocking. So you're on mute, buddy. And I would recommend getting out to that because you would be natural for that being an actor.
Yeah, he actually took me around for a day.
Oh, good.
With him showing me the types of properties that he gets, the reasons why he gets certain properties. He only gets properties in areas that don't look like rentals. He had a lot of great tips, and he does a lot of his own maintenance, which was surprising. I mean,
better him than me.
Yeah, I'm like, I wouldn't do all that, but but this is how he's made his money. But yeah, great guy. I definitely plan on just taking a day with him, and again, but with the team and knocking on doors. It's just a good experience.
Cool. Last year, I traded in all my tools and I bought one tool that will fix anything around any one of my properties right here. It works great. I mean, this thing, I don't get dirty. It does talk back. That's a little annoying, but it's a great tool. And I just built a good team and I don't have to worry about it anymore. So we'll start out with any questions this morning. And I got a little bit of something on title work this morning. And next week, I'm going to have my title guy on this call. And we're going to go through some title things that everybody needs to know that your realtor probably doesn't know. Half the time, your real estate attorney doesn't know, to keep you guys out of trouble. So Keith, go ahead. We'll start with you, man. Let me get you unmuted. Go ahead.
Hey, what's going on, guys? This morning, Keith from Alabama. Tyler, I had a quick question for you. I just wanted to know, how do you feel about divorce leads? Have you had any experience with any?
I have. I don't divorce and probate. I love problems. Don't get me wrong, but because that's how we make our money. Divorce is tough. You got two people trying to kill each other.
Right.
So for me, it would depend on the situation. Because if you want to talk about an unmotivated seller, you're probably going to have one that wants to sell and the other one that wants to just piss off the other one. So you're going to have to look at those on a case by case.
Okay.
I have done some that were pretty easy where they hated each other so bad they didn't even want to fight. They're like, just take this damn house. Where do we got to sign?
But on the other hand, it can go the other way as well.
Yeah, but here's the thing. You got to get used to getting slapped around. If you're going to wholesale and try to get a solid price on the property. So this is like the crash course. If you focus on divorce, it's a crash course on getting over it, because nobody likes being told no and nobody likes being yelled at. But you get used to it after a while. I don't know a better way to say that, but you do. You just get used to it after a while. I don't even, it's now I laugh. I mean, it entertains the hell out of me, but it is great practice. And you'll find that it's probably, from my experience, it's been about 50-50. Probably 50% of the people roll right over.
Okay.
In the divorce situation, the other 50%, they want to rip your face off. And then the guy accuses you of sleeping with his wife and you're the boyfriend. And oh my God, you want to talk about drama.
So I take it. I'm going to take a shot at it and I'll just keep you posted on that.
Absolutely. It's easy to find those problems too.
Okay.
Send some information out to family law offices.
Okay.
Watch court filings, which I don't know about up there in Alabama, but down here in Florida, we can see those online. We don't even have to leave our office to do it, which is nice. And you can use websites like thatsthem.com to run the names. So what I look for is names that are different, like, I don't know, Tyler Sheff. I doubt there's anybody else on this planet with a weird name like I have, especially spelled like I have it spelled.
And it's called thatsthem.com.
Thatsthem.com. I'll put that in the chat. And then it's a great way to track down how to contact them.
Okay. And I got one more question. You said as far as negotiating, that's on your podcast. That's on your latest podcast.
Correct.
Okay, I'm gonna check that out too.
Part 2 launched this morning at 6.
Okay, I'll check it out and I'll give you some feedback after it.
Cool, I appreciate that.
All right, thank you.
Let's see, Evelyn, we have a call today, don't we? Yes, we do. Okay, good. All right. Anybody else have a question at this point? I'm going to run into, I want to show you guys a title policy. Give me 1 second. Let me share screen with you. Can everybody see that? All right. So, guys, when you go buy a property, number one, when you buy a property at an auction, you don't get title insurance. And what title insurance does, so when you buy a property, you're issued a deed or a title to the property that says that you own it. And in a perfect world, you would have a title search done to make sure that there are no liens and no encumbrances or issues with the title. You want to make sure that you get what you paid for. So when you buy a property, if you get a mortgage, the lender requires you to get what they call title insurance. And title insurance insures the title against any defects. So let's say that in 1970, something went haywire or wonky with a sale transaction, or the person that owned it back in the 70s or the 60s or the 40s or the 80s had an IRS lien, or they fell behind on their taxes, or they owed money to a credit card company or something. These things can attach to the title of a property that they own. A lot of people don't realize this. So title insurance is there to protect the new owner, the buyer, from issues arising with the title. So if they find out after they bought it that, hey, in 1943, this person had an IRS tax lien, and now and they've been adding interest and penalties for the last 65 years, and now you owe the federal government $10 million. And I know I'm stretching the numbers, but things like this happen, and they happen a lot with the IRS, actually. Credit card companies, you name it. So title insurance is issued, and the title insurance policy is used to pay the attorneys to fix these issues. Any issue can be fixed with title, provided you throw enough money at it. And instead of you throwing your money at it, because let me tell you, these things can get expensive quickly, title insurance helps. Well, doesn't help. It does cover the cost of that. Before an insurance company will insure the title, they require a title search to be done. And they use attorneys and title companies to do these searches. So when they do a title company does a search, before they officially issue a policy, they will issue what they call a commitment for title insurance, which is a Schedule A. This is what's sitting in front of us right now. And I'm going to have my title guy on probably next week or the following week to answer more questions on this topic. But I wanted to give you a couple things to think about between now and then, because this is something that you won't learn out in the field. I assure you the real estate gurus won't teach you this, because this is about as interesting as watching paint dry. But it's important information you need so you don't get screwed. Wholesalers, when you're wholesaling property and you're doing a double close, 9 times out of 10, there's no title insurance, which means essentially you are, and I'm putting you on notice, you are selling a property or facilitating the sale of a property where you're putting your buyer at extreme risk if you do a double close in most states. So unless you're able to give them title insurance or make sure title insurance comes into play. How do you think, as a wholesaler or a realtor, either one, that if your buyer, you've provided them this property, whether you owned it or not, you provide them a property that has major title issues, how do you feel that's going to be received by the buyer? You think the buyer will be like, that's okay, Chris, I got extra money, I'll pay that $10,000 lien for that other guy I don't know? Sure, why not? That makes perfect sense. Or do you think they'll drop $2,500 retainer in their closest real estate attorney and come after you with both guns and probably report you to the press and God only knows because you screwed them? So title insurance helps protect from all that. In the Schedule A, this is where they talk about the property itself, It gives the legal description of the land. And guys, when you're doing contracts and whatnot, this is why the legal description should be written into the contract, because this is what you use to document what is actually being purchased or what's being sold. If the information here in this legal description does not match the contract, that's a problem. If this information here does not match the deed, that's a problem. So these are things that you're going to want to check. Now, I can assure you, out of all of the real estate agents I personally know, about 2% of them actually ever read these. Now, because, well, number one, most title companies don't even send them to the agents. My title company does. I use Insured Title. They do, but most don't. So, that said, just hang on to your questions here for a minute. And let's see. Good, Trey. I'm glad we can help you with this then. Section 2, or Section B, rather, Section 1, Schedule B, Section 1, talks about the things, the following are requirements to be complied with, which means this is the title company, title insurance company saying, we will insure this title, provided these issues are corrected. Now, everybody glosses over this. Everybody skips over this. I can tell you I am one of the few, and that's not to toot my own horn. I know Chevelle is on this call. She goes through these with her buyers. I know that Evelyn does as well, because we all work for Future Home Realty, and our broker insists on it. But most brokers don't. Most agents don't even realize these things are here, and they don't talk about this in real estate school. Or at least if they do, I don't remember, because I'm old and I forget stuff, but whatever. Anything in bold. So no matter what title commitment you look at, anything that's in regular font is information it's boilerplate. It's already there. It's been there. It's not fill in the blank. So the quick way to look at these is skip over anything that's not bold. What you want to look at is the things in bold. So let me do this real quick. I'm going to make this a little smaller. There we go. The things in bold are what's different. So the date, the commitment number, that really doesn't matter. Who's being insured? So if you're the buyer, whatever name you are taking title in needs to be on this line. That's important. Who owns the property now? Whether it's fee simple or not. And Kevin will go into the fee simple and different types of title when I get him on the call. The legal description. Every title commitment is going to have a different entry here in bold. Okay. Scrolling down to Section 2. All of these issues, it says here, payment to or for the account of grantors of mortgages in the full consideration of state or interest to be insured. The following requirements, are to be complied with. So an instrument creating the estate or interest insured must be approved, executed, and filed. Basically means that somebody needs permission to sell it. Payment of all taxes, charges, and assessments levied and assessed against subject premises which are due and payable. Now, guys, I hear gurus out there teaching that it's okay to buy a property if there are back taxes, and you just assume the back taxes. In other words, let the deed transfer with the back taxes in place. This line right here tells you that's not going to work. So if you're on a closing that the taxes aren't being paid at closing, and the title company allows that to happen, you're not getting a valid title insurance policy. That's a problem. Here in bold, properly drafted and recordable warranty deed. Notice it says warranty deed. Your car has a warranty. You go buy a television, it has a warranty. Deeds also have a warranty, provided a search is done to make sure there are no issues. Do not take title to a property via quitclaim deed. There are lots of scam artists out there that are selling properties off of quitclaim deeds. Quitclaim deed does not give you any protection at all. So don't do that. Demand a warranty deed, or at least a special warranty deed. Again, we can go more into that with Kevin when he gets on coming calls. You want to talk about who it transferred from John Smith and Susan Smith to Wholesale Houses LLC. affidavit in recordable form from John Smith to Susan. So it goes on and on and on. And it talks about named defendant or debtor in the following matters. This means that the current owners of the property have judgments recorded against them in public records. All these different judgments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 of these. 10 judgments against them. Now, if you hadn't done a title search, and let's say you get this property or you wholesale this property, and then let's say a rehabber buys it. The rehabber goes and renovates the property and goes and sells it. And during the sale, the lender for the buyer, the end buyer that's going to buy the pretty house, the lender requires a lender's title policy. Okay? Because they won't loan money without it. They pull a title search and they inspect the chain of title, because the first thing that most title companies do if they're worth anything is they do a 24-month title search. They pull all this stuff up and find out that 2 owners ago, there's all these liens. Well, these liens technically still attached to the deed in this case. Well, guess what? Do you really think that transaction is going to happen? How would you feel if you are, number one, the buyer that's already paid for a home inspection and a termite inspection and all this and an appraisal? They're going to be pissed. The seller, who's the rehabber, is going to be super pissed because they just renovated this house that has all these title issues. So let's say all these judgments add up to, I don't know, $10, $15, $20, $30,000, and you're the rehabber. But it's okay because you bought it at auction and you got a deal, right? I got a deal. I was the highest bidder. I won. Yay for me. No, that means you're stupid. It's that simple. You buy at auction, you're going to lose every time. Guarantee it. Especially if you don't have title insurance. Most investors that I find don't get title insurance because they don't want to pay the $150 or whatever it winds up costing them to do a title search before they buy. So they buy a train wreck like this. This is a real title insurance commitment that I got from my title company. So all these judgments are going to have to be satisfied in order for a warranty deed to happen. But wait, there's more. Release of the Florida Department of Revenue tax warrant against John Smith in the amount of $1,902. Here's a code enforcement lien for $75 recorded in 2014. Well, here's the best part. Hillsborough County also charges interest and penalties on their code enforcement liens. So what shows on here is $75 today needs to be verified because it's probably $200, $300, $400 right now. There's a house in my neighborhood that the neighborhood has been maintaining for years because we don't want to be surrounded by a crappy house. We don't want to live in a neighborhood with a crappy house. So the neighbors, we've gone and cleaned up the yard. We've painted the front of the house just so we don't have to look at a crappy house. The city of Tarpon Springs had over $100,000 in liens on this property. The property value is only like $250. For years and years and years, the neighborhood has been maintaining this house because it had so many liens against it. Nobody could effectively sell it. The bank foreclosed on it, and then they didn't want the house. So it sat. Now, it just recently that somebody wound up suing the city of Tarpon Springs, a potential buyer, and got the fines reduced to a point that they could renovate it. So now they're renovating it for resale, thank God. Here's another tax warrant, $1,555. This means somebody probably did not pay some sort of tax to Hillsborough County. Release of a judgment in favor of West Chase Community Association in the amount of almost $4,000. And that's from 2009. Well, I'm here to tell you, a lot of times when a lien or a judgment gets put against somebody, interest accrues. So $3,967 has grown exponentially by now, especially since 2009. I can't imagine what that must cost. Here's another lien and judgment. This is all one property, guys. $6,160 plus court cost and interest. Right there. Plus court cost and interest. Entered on 2009. Last time I looked up one of these, the interest rate was 18% per year on $6,100 since 2009. That's a lot of money. I'm working on I got a podcast recorded. I just haven't released it yet from a friend of mine and Larry's that she teaches people how to recover these judgments. In other words, how to actually get these people to pay. It's a great little course. You could turn it into a full-time job. Real become are due. That's pretty normal for 2016 in the amount of $1,433. Oh, well, in this case, they become delinquent April 1st. But lo and behold, delinquent taxes for 2015. And look at what it says here. Please call Collector of Revenue for updated amount before closing. There's a tax certificate on the property, which means they didn't pay their taxes and the county sold the certificate. And $1,453 is owed. Here's another one for the year prior for an additional $1,643 for year 2014 plus interest and penalties. And for those of you in my market, the Tampa Bay market, this is a house in West Chase. So if you scroll down to section B, here's what the get out of jail free card that title insurance companies and banks use this on a regular basis, guys. This is what drives me nuts. I've recorded 2 podcast episodes on this very topic. Schedule B, section 2. These are the exceptions. This policy or policies to be issued will contain exceptions to the following, unless same are disposed of to the satisfaction of the company. That means if any of the things in bold cannot be corrected to the satisfaction of the title company or the title insurance company, they will not issue title insurance. Or they will issue insurance, but will not insure against any of these issues. Every time you buy a foreclosure, and those of you that have bought a foreclosure, I want you to go back and look at your title policy. I guarantee you this verbiage is on there. This is why I'm not a big advocate of buying foreclosures. Any loss, this is in bold is what they're accepting, not accepting, not ACCEPT. These are accepted. These are things that we will insure except these issues. Any loss or claim arising from an attack on the foreclosure sale evidenced by the certificate of title recorded December 3rd of 2015. Guys, they're saying they'll insure any issues with the title except any issues that would be caused by a bank foreclosure. I can tell you in almost every circumstance, there is some sort of issue with a bank foreclosure. One of these days, I'm going to bring Sean Yesner, one of my local real estate attorneys, on the show to talk about just that topic. If the bank did not properly notice all parties, if they didn't file their filings right, if they didn't cross their T's and dot their I's, anything wrong with the foreclosure proceeding that could allow the previous owner to get this property back is not insured. And I know some of you have bought properties from foreclosures, from tax deed auctions. You will see this in your title commitment. Now, if the title company takes the time to go through the entire file, the foreclosure file, to verify everything is done in accordance with law and procedure, this can be waived. They call it marking up the commitment, which basically means the title insurance person will put a line through it. They'll sign off that this has been corrected. So then you can proceed with your closing and not have to worry about any risk. Next one, number 8, covenants, conditions, restrictions, and easements according to the plat thereof, which means if there's any restrictions or easements or anything like that recorded in public records, those are not covered by title insurance. General taxes are paid. This is Columbus Drive in Tampa. Let's see. 24-month chain of title. I think I said this a little bit ago. Certificate of title, case number, whatever it is, Hillsborough County Circuit Judge. This here is telling you that they're accepting this. They want the 24-month chain of title and that a warranty deed must have been executed between these two people and that it's recorded appropriately. So these things are basically not included in the insurance unless you can have them accept or have them mark them up. I know it's cool and sexy to get a deal under contract and flip it to somebody else and you make your $5,000, $10,000, whatever you do. And agents, oh my God, if I could just get a sale, that's all I need to make my money and everything's fine. But if you're not taking the steps to make sure that the buyer is educated on this, you're going to wind up in hot water at some point. That I assure you. These are things, and if you're the buyer, these are things that you need to be aware of and you need to be looking out for. Because if you're not doing this due diligence, what the hell are you buying? You're buying nothing. You're buying garbage. This applies in any state, anywhere in the country. Those title commitments are a nationwide thing. They all look the same pretty much in every state. The rules are pretty much the same, few minor variances, but pretty much the same. So, folks, don't take shortcuts when it comes to acquiring a property or acquiring a property from somebody. Do you think Jimmy the wholesaler that's got his hat sideways and is out there hustling houses, do you think he's taking the time to pull title and look at a title commitment? No. So if you're buying from that guy, you better be asking for that title commitment. You want to see that before you close. Same thing goes with the real estate agent. They're so busy trying to get their glamour shots done, making sure their magnetic signs line up on their aluminum car, and they can't figure out why they keep falling off the door. They're not paying attention to this either. If you're the buyer, you need to make damn sure that you're paying attention to this and that you're checking this stuff out. And you should demand that you that you close with an experienced title company or an experienced real estate attorney that gets it. Because if you're dealing with some fly-by-night title company that is willing to do a closing for $200 because you're an investor, I assure you they're sacrificing some quality. Absolutely guaranteed. So Trey, since you have a deal going on, yes, Trey, it does apply to pre-foreclosures, especially to pre-foreclosures. Here's why. When a pre-foreclosure is filed, the first thing they do is a notice of list pendants in any state. They may call it something a little different in Texas, but in Florida it's called a list pendants. It basically says something is wrong. There is a potential claim against the title of this property, against the deed. Ownership is in jeopardy. We're putting everybody on notice by recording this against the deed. Remember the other day you were talking about clouding a title or recording a memorandum? This is essentially the same thing. If it's caught at the title during the closing, then that's going to have to be satisfied. So if it's a pre-foreclosure, that issue will have to be corrected at closing for it to close effectively. So if it's in pre-foreclosure, I guarantee you there's some sort of something filed against the deed from the bank or from the lender when the foreclosure proceedings begins, putting everybody on notice. You're going to have to correct that before you close. It's usually done at the closing table because if the title company does their job, they've done a lien search to realize that there's a mortgage in place. They've called to verify a payoff, and they give them a payoff through a particular date. They say, okay, this payoff is good through June 30th. And they'll usually do it within 30 days of the closing date. Here's the other thing you got to think about, though. If the title company does a search today, and today is the 27th of January, and you're closing on March 1st, they do a search today. Chances are they're not going to do another search between today and March 1st because they've already done one. So if Jerry decides that I owe him $50, Jerry can go down to the tax collector's office or to the court clerk and record a lien against my property in that time frame. That would get missed, get overlooked. How is it overlooked? Because the title company usually does not pull a second search unless you ask them to. Most investors are always trying to save money, so they don't want to spend $100 to have another search done, because why would I spend $100 to ensure myself that I actually get to buy this property I'm paying cash for because I don't know how to negotiate and I can't get my own terms? So because they're so focused on getting a deal, they skip over this tiny little thing and they wind up buying a property that now has a lien on it. But it didn't have a lien on it before. I'm a victim. No, you're not. You didn't request your title company pull a second search before closing to make sure there's no other additional entries. So these are things you got to look out for. And Chevelle's absolutely right. You're buying future problems is exactly what you're doing. This is why I'm adamant about, guys, if you're an investor, you're out there buying, especially, it doesn't matter if it's rental property or flips. If you're going to work with an agent, work with an agent that understands investment property, frankly, that owns it or is deeply studying it, so they know these things that keep you out of hot water. a great deal can get blown apart in title, and you'll never know about it until afterwards. The day after closing, you'll figure this stuff out. And guess what? Then it's too late. Or you can hire an attorney to sue everybody and try to sort this out. Unclouding a title, I've got estimates between, on average, between $2,500 and $3,500 to clear up a title, depending on which attorney you hire. That's if it goes easy and nobody contests it. If people start contesting it, $10,000, $15,000, $30,000, $50,000, it's whatever the market bears, because attorneys charge by the hour. So if it takes them forever to get things cleaned up, you're going to pay for that, as you well should, because you didn't do your homework. So these are things that you absolutely got to think about. Frankie, how do you self-check title search? I'm going to do a class with Kevin as soon as I can pin him down on exactly that. How to do your own title searches. You can get them done having somebody else do them for as little as $75. There are clearinghouses out there that will provide you a title search for as little as $75. A good one with a reputable company should cost you between $125 to $150. To do it right, it takes time, and you have to ask yourself, what is your time worth? For me, when I'm in income generating activity time, I bill at $500 an hour. So if I'm going to invest an hour in that project, I better be able to save $500. And if I can't, I'm going to hire somebody else to do it for me. So when I'm getting ready to buy a property, I just pick up the phone, I call Kevin, he takes care of it, and he bills me. It's that simple, because I have that relationship with him. And I buy enough property, I just have an account there. He just bills me, and off we go. Because I'm not willing to take those risks. Because I'm too old to buy a property that's got 50 grand in liens on it and then lose 50 grand. No, I work hard for my money. I'm not going to give it away to some schmuck. Here's the thing you got to think about is, let's say that there's a property transfer happened 15 years ago. Let's say it's you, Trey. You transferred a property to me 15 years ago. And you weren't really happy with the transaction because I was the wholesaler and you feel that I just took that property from you and I didn't give you enough money. Now let's fast forward 10 years. Evelyn now is the buyer and she's all set to buy this property. Let's say, hell, she does buy the property because she's an investor and she pays cash for the property from somebody else, not you. Because remember, you sold it 10 years ago, right? So 10 years down the road, Evelyn decides she wants to get an equity line of credit on this property, and she goes and gets a bank loan on the property, tries to. The bank then says, that's cool, let's get a title search, because the bank's not going to loan money on it without a title search. They're going to pull a title search and say, who the hell's Trey? And Evelyn will be like, I don't know a Trey. Well, Trey has equitable interest in your property from 10 years ago. How so? Well, because when the deed transferred, it was not worded properly, and he didn't sign his full name. Therefore, the sale technically never happened. Trey still owns the property. You have to go now, Evelyn, to Trey and get Trey to sign this new deed that we've prepared for you to get him to waive his rights to the property. And let's say that Trey lost his job recently and Trey's just having a bad day and he could use some extra money right now. Evelyn, you want me to sign the deed to the property, my property to you? But Trey, you just sold it 10 years ago. I don't recall that ever happening. Okay, Trey, how much is it going to cost? How much you got? I don't feel that I should sign off on this. I feel that I'm being taken advantage of. I mean, good Lord, they elected Donald Trump as president. Hillary got screwed. I just feel this is not good. You people are ripping me off. Evelyn, you're a dirty realtor too. I know you realtors are ripping people off. I'm not signing. $50,000 I'll consider signing. Evelyn tells you to pack sand. Well, guess what? Now you go to court. You can get your property back. How about that? And nobody's going to be able to fight you because they can't afford to hire the attorney to fight you. All of that could have been solved with a $150 title search. I have buyers tell me, because to work with me, and to me be your agent, I insist, number one, that my commission is paid by you as my buyer. I don't I'll collect from the seller and deduct that from what you owe me, but I don't worry about what the seller is going to pay me because I work with you. 2, we will control title. And 3, you will pay for title insurance. If those 3 conditions are not met, you don't work with Tyler. It's that simple, because I'm not desperate for business. I don't need your business. I'm not going to hire an attorney later to have to defend myself against you because you were stupid. So those are my rules. And sometimes people actually go, no, I don't want title insurance. Well, then we're not going to do business. Some of you going, but dude, you're walking away from $10,000, $15,000 commission. Yep. Because really what I'm walking away from is $20,000 in legal fees to defend myself later when you become a victim because you didn't follow my advice to begin with. Guys, title work. This is why I say don't beat the title companies up on their fees too much. They deserve to eat because they're protecting you. Now, if they're charging you $5,000 to do a title search, then they're ripping you off and you should shop it. But don't beat them down to $100 to do their job, because when you do that, they'll do their job all right. They'll win in the end. That makes sense? Guys, when you're wholesaling, make sure that you get your buyer to pull title on this. Now, the good news is if they're doing hard money and it's a hard money lender that's a company or established, the hard money lender will usually require a title search to be done. They'll also usually require an appraisal in a lot of cases. At least that's what I'm seeing lately. I don't take hard money, but so those protections are in place to help you. So don't get irritated when the hard money lender makes it more difficult to close. They're just looking out to make sure that their interests are protected because they're loaning money on this deal. They want to make sure that they're in good shape. So we will get into teaching you guys how to do title searches, or at least preliminary searches. It is time consuming. It's probably going to be something we do maybe later this spring. I got to get with Kevin to go through that at Insured Title and walk you guys through that process. But I do believe it's something that you should hire out somebody that's good. And I'll get you guys some information on some clearinghouses that can do it pretty much nationwide. So if you're taking title, you definitely need to do it. And that's that. Do we have any questions on that topic or any other topics? Got about 15 minutes left. Candace, I've been dealing with Insured Title. So Candace's question is, can you tell us some of the title search clearinghouses that you've used in the past? I've been dealing with Insured Title so long now that, frankly, I've got to look for the list. I was using who Insured Title uses because they were kind enough to share that information with me. And at the time, I thought I was saving money because I could go directly to the source. So I think they charged Kevin like $75 and I was paying $125 with Kevin. But what I realized then is, as I got busier, that the extra $50 that I was paying Insured Title to broker the transaction, there's also somebody that has a hell of a lot more experience looking at the title results than I do, looking at it first. And for $50, I just give Insured Title the $50 because I could send one email and they know me. I give them half the information and sometimes not even that. And they figure out the rest because I'm not a details guy. Ask my transaction coordinator. She'll tell you. I'm like, look, I sold this. And I just throw it like poo against the wall. Here, finish that. But they just take care of it for me. I don't have to worry about it. An extra $50, I let them deal with it. So it's worth it. If something shows up on title, but the people say they have the paperwork showing the lien was released, will that satisfy the title company? I hate to use this answer, but it depends. It depends on if it's a document that requires being notarized, then, and it's not notarized, that would be a problem. But if the document is an order and they can verify with the person or the entity that issued the lien that it's in fact satisfied, then they're going to verify everything. In other words, so let's say you've got an old power bill, a water bill that the city of Dallas recorded against the lien, and it's, I don't know, $500. Your seller brings you a letter saying that it's been paid in full from the city of Dallas. That's not going to suffice. The title company is going to pick up the phone and verify. They're going to require that the city of Dallas send over a letter stating directly from them, stating that it's in fact been paid in full. Because there's scam artists out there that you can make anything with Photoshop these days. They Photoshop up a letterhead, and sure, I paid my $5,000 IRS lien. What could go wrong? So the title companies are going to verify everything if they're good title companies, because they don't want that liability on their shoulders. Because if they insure it, they're essentially saying, we guarantee that everything is as it's supposed to be. So I would doubt if they're going to put themselves out there in that limb. Same thing with a personal debt. A letter, they probably require it be notarized if it's from a private person. Like if I owed you money, Trey, they're probably going to send you a letter saying, Trey, Tyler's trying to sell a property. We need you to release this, sign off that you've been paid in full, and then sign off on a release of lien. And they'll probably have you also sign a quitclaim deed, which absolves you of any interest in the property, indirect or direct. Let's see, Rachel. Let's see. Have a seller that was doing a lease option previously, and that person forged his name and signed the deed of trust to herself. What a winner. How would this be fixed? She's no longer living there, and she's still managing the property. Well, the seller was doing a lease option. So, Rachel, do you mean the tenant forged their name to it? Who forged their name to it? I'm assuming that the tenant did. So that would be corrected. Number one, that's fraud. So if it were me, I would first hire an attorney to correct the issue. The attorney would probably refer the case over to the state attorney's office for fraud prosecution. If the attorney had half a brain, go ahead.
Okay. He did a lease option to her. She went in and she forged his name. She did have it notarized. You can look at the deed, and it's obvious. It's all done in the same writing. But she's no longer living there. He's still managing the property, but now he's wanting to sell it.
So he's going to have to prove it in court that he didn't sign it, because a judge can override that.
Okay, so he is going to have to file a case and take her to court?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And I've had cases like this come up before, and what works well, and if the attorney's savvy, this will work well. You get on the phone with the old tenant and let them know that your next call is to the state attorney's office, and they've committed fraud, which is a felony in every state. First degree because of the dollar figure. If it's over 50,000, I think it is in Florida, it's first degree, or 5,000 or something like that. So there's mandatory jail time. So you can turn yourself in. We're going to send you to prison forever. And you'll be on the 5 o'clock news.
If we talk to her and could convince her to fix it, how would she go about fixing that?
She would probably, I'm going to defer to your, number one, have an attorney do it in Dallas to make sure that it follows state and county regulations, because it has to be done a certain way. But in Florida, I know of my attorney, Sean Yesner, he would require probably that she sign off on a quitclaim deed. Trying to think. That's usually the way I've seen it handled, is that she signs a quitclaim deed, quitclaiming the property back or absolving herself of any liability. But that's very dependent on the state and the individual court. So frankly, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole without having an attorney do it. Because if something's not done to exact procedure, you want someone else to blame. I hate to say it that way, but it is what it is. If you try to do this to save a buck, because this should cost you an hour with an attorney, maybe, to have them get their advice, have them draft the document, and then get signature on it. And one of the ways that I know, one of the local attorneys I've dealt with in the past, what he does is require that the buyer go to another attorney if they're out of the area, or come to his office to sign in person. And then he personally notarizes the document or has his assistant do it, so they can verify. They can't say it wasn't me, type thing. But definitely that should run through the attorney's office 100%, because that's a sticky situation. She's already a scam artist. That's clear. So then, yeah, absolutely, you want to run through the attorney. I hate to hear stories like that. I really do. But unfortunately, there's a lot of that going on. There's also another thing going on, folks, where, and we've had this happen right here in Pasco County, should say here, it's right north of me, but wholesalers, you guys are, some of people are being taught by some of these gurus that you're supposed to go out and record your contract or a memorandum of contract against the seller's title. Don't ever do that, because of that's number one, it's dirty pool, but there's gurus out there teaching to do it no matter what. Even if there's not a problem, just do it so that you're guaranteed to not get beat out. If I ever had that happen, if I ever found out somebody that I knew did that, I would come after you with every bit of everything I had in me, because that is theft. That's fraud. You just can't do that. That's wrong. I'll stop what I'm doing. I'll shut my business down, and I'll go viral, making sure everybody knows how much of a scumbag you are, because that is just dirty pool. It happened to a lady, 70-year-old woman up here in Hudson, Florida, where I'm just going to say it, jackass wholesaler, fresh out of some boot camp. That's basic stuff, guys. Everybody should know better. You don't steal people's property. Do we really need to tell you that in today's society? I mean, come on. But that's what he did. Got her sign a contract and then recorded that contract and then tried to basically force her out of her house. Really? Come on. Chris, what do you got?
Okay, so this is actually a pre-foreclosure question. I'm working with a couple, well, like I told you earlier, I'm about to knock on a couple doors, but the advertised auction date is anywhere from, or the earliest I see is February 1st. And my question was, how near the advertised auction date, or like or when they're going to be foreclosed on, like, can I still save them as a wholesaler problem solver? You know, I mean, is 2 weeks like a good enough window, or is that something too tight? You know.
So I've never pulled a property out of foreclosure in Memphis. All the properties I've bought in Memphis had either private mortgages or weren't in any state of foreclosure. So it was a little different there. But down here in Florida, you got to allow at least 14 days to get, I would say a minimum of 14 days to save it.
Cool. Okay.
I know there are cases where you could do it quicker, but again, you're going to have to, for example, like Pasco County, which is just north of me, it takes 7 to 10 days minimum just to get a title search back from the county.
Wow.
They take that long. They're so slow. Code enforcement, same thing. So just to get good title work to allow you to close on it, and when you close, you're solving the problem, in a lot of cases can take a good 10 days. I figure 14, maybe even 21. I always try to get everything at 21 days or longer, just so I can do things the right way and not be forced to rush, because that can work out very, very badly. But yeah, just in that case, also, but understand, just because there's an auction date doesn't mean the auction will actually happen.
What do you mean?
So if the seller has an attorney and they're fighting it, number one, they can ask for a continuance. They can do all kinds of different strategies, the attorneys can, to delay the auction. Right up until the day of the auction, they can go in and file something with the judges or whoever, depending on how it's run in the individual state. And an attorney can delay. They're good at that. But what you can do, there's not a lot you as an individual can do, but an attorney can delay it right up until the day of auction in most cases. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, it did.
I would allow, you're going to have so many pre-foreclosure leads, especially in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
If you bypass everything that's going to foreclose in the next 30 days, you'd still have 50,000 leads to choose from.
Yeah, definitely. I just didn't want to waste my time on, the ones that are too near. So
no problem.
All right. I appreciate that.
Chevelle says, I had a deal fall apart because the investor bought a foreclosure in 2009. Ultimately, the release of property had been signed by the wrong mortgage company. Property had transferred from one company to another. Yeah, exactly. No title search was done until my buyers were ready to purchase and the problem surfaced. Yes. The investor seller didn't want to pay the money it was going to take to fix the issue, so decided to keep the property and continue to rent it out. And that happens. There's some rental properties right here in Tarpon Springs like that they were bought at a tax deed sale. Well, it takes time to clear up title issues, and these people have been trying to sell them ever since. And you see them advertised on Craigslist. Quit claim deed. There's one right now. You can buy a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house for $15,000. but the guy's only going to give you a quitclaim deed because the title's a train wreck. And people buy them like that. Now, for me, it would depend on what the issue is, but you technically don't have complete control of that property. So that's a risk you're going to have to decide if you want to take. So I'm actually planning on calling that guy and see if I can get him to allow me to record the call, because he sounds just crazy enough in the ad that would be highly entertaining for you guys. I'm doing it mainly for my own entertainment. If you guys enjoy it too, I guess it's a bonus. I get bored sometimes, But all right, guys, it's 10 o'clock. I got time for one more question. Lance in Tampa.
Hey, good morning, Tyler.
How you doing, buddy?
Hey, real good. Hey, looking to bring some value to some of the realtor contacts I come across as I go out my work day. You mentioned about commission for your terms for your commissions, and I've mentioned that to a couple of the realtors. Their eyes kind of widen and they're intrigued. And I wanted to make sure I'm bringing the correct value when I talk about how one gets it, terms for their commission and when they take it, and kind of how that gets set up so that when I'm explaining it, they're.
So the simplest way it works is, well, number one, you can always have, if they're in the Tampa Bay area, you can have them call me and I can walk them through it if they need it. But if you want to explain it, it's like this. Normally the agent is paid out of the proceeds of closing. There's no law that says whether that commission, let's say it's $5,000, comes out of the seller's or the buyer's side of the transaction. There's no law that dictates which is supposed to happen. What governs that usually is whether or not there's a bank loan on the property. And if there's a bank loan, in other words, the buyer's taking a bank mortgage or institutional lending, the underwriters generally want to see the real estate commission to come out of the seller side of the transaction, because they're underwriters. I don't know why that specifically, and nobody's ever given me a straight answer why. So one strategy you can do is, and I won't go too deep into it, but you basically, the title company can create a promissory note right there as part of the closing. In Florida, as a realtor, your commission is technically owed to your broker and not to you, and then your broker chooses to pay you. Now, in my case, because my broker kicks ass, he only charges us $250. So I get every dime except for $250. That's because I work for Future Home Realty. Insert commercial here. So I know my deal with my broker is that if I'm going to do a note for my commission, I can do whatever I want with my commission because it's my money. And he lets us get paid at the closing table. So the title companies, in that case, write 2 checks, one to Bob for $250 and one to me for everything else. So in that case, instead of me taking my check, I instead take a promissory note signed by the buyer. And then I set it up in my system to where I just send them out an invoice automatically and they pay it they make payments to me every month for however long we talk about. As long as that lien is negotiated or is recorded after the first mortgage, you're fine. So there's no issues with the bank loan. So it can't be in first position. It needs to be in second position, but I'm willing to do that. I'm fine with that. And I charge, between 6 and 7% interest generally. And I make the payments. I stretch the payments out as far as the buyer needs to be comfortable with the payment amount. In other words, if they're landlord and let's say the rental property can only afford $50 a month payments, then I'll structure it so it's $50 a month payments, because frankly, the longer it takes, the more money I make. So my 4 or 5% buyer's commission, because I charge a different fee than most agents do, because I'm not most agents. I break that up over time to make it easier for the buyer to swallow. And I allow, it's easier for them, number one, because we can get a lot more deals done. So they don't have to worry about me skipping for sale by owners. See, most real estate agents will skip for sale by owners because it's hard to get paid from a for sale by owner. The reason why they're by owners, they don't want to pay a real estate commission. Agents don't want to represent the sellers for free. Because even though you think, well, I'm just representing the buyer, you're going to wind up representing the seller, right? Because they're just going to wear you out. It's much easier for me to work with Evelyn on a deal if Evelyn's representing the seller than it would be to work with you, because you're uneducated and you're going to be a pain in my butt. But Evelyn she's an agent. So she has a certain ethical standard that she's required to live by. And I can call her broker, which happens to be my broker. If there's a problem, if she becomes obnoxious, I can call the broker and have the broker middleman the deal. With you, I don't have that because you don't have a broker and my broker's not going to call you, period. So for me, it's a powerful tool in representing my buyers once they figure out that it's only for their benefit. 2, I make a little bit more money on my commissions because it's spread out over time. And then I've got predictable streams of income because most real estate agents live paycheck to paycheck because they don't have any passive income. I don't live paycheck to paycheck, obviously, because I have passive income from rentals and other businesses. Like I just bought the credit repair franchise I told you about. That's a stream of passive income. But I'm still getting paid from real estate deals I did 7 years ago, 8 years ago. I'm still collecting payments on that, which is a beautiful thing. And people say, well, $50 a month, $100 a month, what's the point? Well, until you've gone a day where you don't have that $100. I've had times where those checks that I forget about sometimes show up and I'm going, sweet. Forgot all about those. So having that note also gives me something of value. And what I've done in the past is I've taken those notes and I've sold them to people. I had an investor once that had a duplex and he didn't want cash because he was a smart investor. He didn't want cash. He wanted notes. So he says, go buy me a note at a good yield and I'll take that as a down payment. I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 3 notes that I have from previous real estate commissions of mine. And I'll sell them to you. So you get a 20% yield on each note. How's that work? He's like, deal. All right, cool. So I gave him the notes. Now he's waiting for the payments. And I just got into his property for essentially no money down because the cash flow I'm going to make off the duplex paid me more money than the damn notes did. All 3 combined. He's happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. And I just crossed them off my spreadsheet. That's simple. Easy peasy.
Perfect.
Here's the problem with the whole theory, though. A lot of brokers won't allow this.
Yep. That's the objection I get when I talk to them.
My broker won't let me do that. Well, here's my answer to that. If you are in the state of Florida and your broker won't allow that, you need to pick up the phone and call me. Because the first thing I'm going to tell you is you need a new broker. And there's no broker on the planet that is as good as mine. I assure you that, or as cheap. Because you should have control over what goes into your pocket. And if you don't have control over that, you got a problem as a realtor. You got a huge problem. And I don't care about how much free training they give or how cool their red shirts look or the fact that they have a seminar every year where everybody goes, yay, hoorah, drink the Kool-Aid. Bob does that too and still only charges $250. So you'll be doing them a favor.
Awesome.
So
thanks for breaking it down.
That's for sure. So guys, with that, it's about 7 after. I've got some appointments I got to get on today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up right here. I want to thank you guys for coming out. I'm going to be trying to do some interviews this week if I can get somebody on the horn that's willing to submit, so to speak. And here, give you guys some more examples on negotiating and working through problems and things like that. So that's it for this week. I appreciate you guys taking the time. And if you guys are listening to my podcast, by the way, because I guess I'm doing a crappy job of asking for reviews. If you guys are on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud or whatever, and you like the show, don't keep your mouth shut if you think the show sucks. I don't need any bad reviews. But if you like the show, go ahead and whatever service you're listening to on it, leave me a review or just click 5 stars or whatever. Because my audience is over 100,000 now, and I've only got 20 reviews on iTunes because I never asked for them. Meanwhile, I'm talking to some other podcasters who've got an audience of like 5 people, but somehow they got 600 reviews. So I guess I got to get on the game. So I appreciate that. Guys, have a great week, and I will catch you back here 9:00 next Friday. And if you know somebody that would benefit from this, then have them reach out to me through the website or go to cashflowguys.com/coffee. And just before we log off, if you're interested in Larry's boot camp about seller financing, it's coming up this next month, February 16th through the 19th in Tampa. There are still a couple seats available, so don't waste a lot of time thinking about it. You need to get out there and do it if you want to actually do some of this stuff that we're talking about, and you don't want to sit here and listen to me talk about it. Sign up. You can do that at cashflowguys.com/no banks. We'll talk to you guys. Have a great Friday.